Next on Unsolved Mysteries. A mysterious woman shows up on an Indian reservation. No one knows she's wanted for murder. According to legend, $30 million in gold and silver is buried in the Virginia countryside. It's yours if you can decipher a secret code. A mother goes undercover in the world of motorcycle gangs to find the men who murdered her son. And are the spirits of artists Claude Monet and Vincent van Gogh creating new works through this man? Cunning, deceit, and lies. Maybe you can figure out who's telling the truth. I'm Dennis Farina, and this is Unsolved Mysteries. Bitter Springs, Arizona. One November day, a mysterious visitor arrives at a housing settlement of the Navajo Nation. She calls herself Sandy, and everyone is puzzled by her behavior. She has conversations with herself and walks into several homes uninvited. She's secretive and seems to be hiding from something or someone.
She asked, "Can you dye my hair?" I said, "What for?" "Cut my hair blonde so I can change my identity."
She asked one family if she can leave a pickup truck behind their house.
My niece told me that this Sandy wanted to park her vehicle there for about a week. Immediately I said, "Well, why don't she park it out front?" But she said that she wanted to really park her vehicle where it was hidden from the road. I just had a funny feeling that things were not all right.
2 days later, Sandy suddenly leaves. Within a week, the people of Bitter Springs learned the truth about their mysterious visitor. Her real name was Maria Armstrong, and her brief visit to the Navajo settlement marked the end of a doomed relationship that had started nearly 10 years earlier. Maria Armstrong grew up in a small suburban city in southern New Jersey. She was an attractive girl who always had her choice of boyfriends. One of those boyfriends was Robert Argenti, nicknamed Ron. He had graduated high school at 17 with honors and joined the National Guard. He was outgoing and athletic, yet he had always been fascinated by the introverted Maria.
Maria was innocent, and she was beautiful. She had long, almost black hair, really gorgeous, and I think that's what my brother was attracted to her, because she was so unusual looking. She was sweet, she was kind to people. She was your friend.
Ron eventually moved to Mesa, Arizona, to be near his family. Back in New Jersey, Maria had begun to behave strangely, showing signs of delusion and paranoia. Her parents feared that she was using drugs and placed her in a series of mental hospitals. Finally, it was determined that Maria was suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, a physical disease of the brain. It most commonly strikes its victims in their teens and 20s. Schizophrenics frequently have trouble telling the difference between the real world and their delusions. There is no known cure for schizophrenia, but the symptoms can be sometimes controlled with medication. Ron convinced Maria to move to Arizona and live with him so that she could start over with a clean slate.
He seemed to think that she was fine, and that all he wanted to do was get her away from New Jersey and get her away from the drugs and get her away from the bad influences back there and help her to reestablish her life out here.
That June, Maria finally came to Arizona. Despite his family's objections, Maria moved in with Ron.
We were concerned because we did hear that she was in a mental institution, and we knew she was on drugs back east. But, you know, they were holding hands, kissing. They were like a couple.
For the first few weeks, Maria seemed happy in Mesa. But soon after she arrived, Ron began working the graveyard shift, so Maria was often alone at night. She began pacing, talking to herself, and once again showing symptoms of schizophrenia.
Somebody in the apartment complex where they lived, Maria had made friends with, and Ron found out that this person was supplying drugs to Maria.
She wasn't going to the psychiatrist. She had canceled her appointments. She wasn't taking her medication. She said that it kept her up at night. Well, she was already up all the time at night. She never slept anyway.
Maria began to accuse Ron of plotting against her.
Maria, calm down. Listen, calm down.
All right!
Ron told his sisters that Maria often attacked him physically. She once hit him so hard that she ruptured his eardrum.
I would talk to Ron on the phone, and I would tell him, Ronnie, you have to do something. You have to get rid of her. Send her home. I don't want to do that. I want to help her, he would say. I said, but you can't help her. It's obvious you can't help her. She needs more than you to help her. She needs psychiatric care.
Who are you talking to?
After 5 months, Ron had finally reached the end of his rope.
Who are you talking to?
Roxanne.
Hi, Roxanne.
Yeah.
I called him, and he said, the neighbors are complaining. The management wants to kick me out, and I want to get her out of here.
She is.
She's there in the room, listening to all this.
The next morning, Maria slowly drove into Bitter Springs, 260 miles north of Mesa. She was calling herself Sandy and trying to sell the pickup truck that she was driving.
First thing she said to you, you're interested in buying a truck? And I said, no, I'm not.
Can you know where I could get it painted?
I just thought maybe she was hiding from her boyfriend or something like that, because she said she left her boyfriend someplace.
The following morning, the Arizona Highway Patrol responded to a complaint in Bitter Springs. Maria had left her pickup truck parked behind a house, and the owner was afraid that it was stolen. The officer ran a computer check on the license plate and found the car was registered to Ron Argenti. He arranged to have it towed to a nearby town. After searching several locations, the officer found out that the mysterious woman was hiding in a local house.
Come on out, I see you behind the bed. I let her go, but I just had the feeling that she had either done something, was doing something, or was going to do something.
4 days later, a maintenance man at Ron Argenti's apartment complex asked the manager to come with him to Ron's apartment.
I noticed a stack of old newspapers in front of Ron's apartment. We went up, got the manager, and then we entered the apartment. Hello, maintenance. When I first hit the door just flung wide open. I walked in and I saw a pile of clothes on the couch. Didn't see anybody in there, and everything was quiet. So I walked through the unit looking, yelling, anybody here? And didn't get any answer.
Oh my God.
According to the medical examiner report on the autopsy, the cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head region, and Mr. Argenti had been dead for several days. This guy is definitely going to be a homicide. His body had been covered by bedding, pillows, clothing, as if someone was trying to hide the discovery of the body. We found just left of the body a small hand sledgehammer. We also found that he had been stabbed in the right rib area with a wooden-handled knife, but the knife wound came after the trauma to the head. It was our theory that Mr. Argenti had been sleeping in a sitting position on the couch because he was afraid of Maria Armstrong, and that sometime when he was asleep, Ms. Armstrong came up and inflicted the blows to his head with the sledgehammer and then subsequently stabbed him. Then we believe that she covered the body in an attempt to hide the crime. She went into the bedroom, changed her clothing, and then took the keys to Mr. Argenti's truck and then left Mesa and drove up north to Bitter Springs. The last sighting that we had on Maria was on November 11th, where she was seen hitchhiking on the highway next to Bitter Springs back towards the Flagstaff area. I would say she's probably very much alive and very dangerous. There's no predicting what she's going to do.
Update. Maria Armstrong has been captured. Shortly after this story aired, the FBI received a call from one of our viewers.
We received a telephone call that Marie Armstrong had been living in the Memphis, Tennessee area, and that she was going to be at the airport on August 3rd of this year. The FBI subsequently went to the airport and were able to identify her, and they did place her under arrest.
Armstrong had changed her appearance by dyeing her hair blonde. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Maria Armstrong has since been released. Next, a mother goes undercover to solve the mystery of her missing son. San Jose, California. Gus Hoffman was a popular 20-year-old with a reputation as a skilled mechanic. He was not a hardcore biker, but one of his hobbies was restoring vintage motorcycles. Gus bought a 1966 Harley-Davidson Sportster and spent 8 months and $4,000 restoring it to mint condition. On the 4th of July, he was putting the finishing touches on the motorcycle. He showed it off to his brother and told him that he was going to take it out for a short ride. Gus's family never saw him again. When Gus Hoffman didn't return, his mother called the police, but they were required to wait 48 hours before investigating a missing persons report. So, Rose Hoffman set out on her own. It was the beginning of a 10-year quest to uncover the truth about her son's disappearance.
Hi, Miss Hoffman.
Rose Hoffman first searched her neighborhood and questioned one of Gus's friends who worked at a nearby gas station.
But about 2 days ago, I saw him pull up on his motorcycle. There were these 2 other guys that want choppers with him.
He said that he saw Gus riding by, and he said there was 2 motorcycles in back of him and a blue Monte Carlo. And he said the reason he recognized it was because these same 2 motorcycle guys came in to the gas station, and they were like real mean to him, and so he remembered them. And they had real long hair, and they were just real tough guys, guys that you don't fool around with.
A second witness later said that the 2 bikers had stopped Gus, argued, and threatened him with chains. When Gus pulled away, they took off in pursuit. The 2 witnesses identified the bikers as Michael Hodges and Michael Stevenson, both members of a motorcycle gang called the Forgotten Few.
If there was ever a person who you could say was a career criminal, the name would be Michael Stevenson. He's probably the most violent person that I've ever investigated.
The San Jose police didn't have enough evidence to bring Stevenson and Hodges in for questioning. So they talked to other gang members who knew the 2 men.
Yeah. We're with the San Jose police.
But no one was willing to talk. It seemed that everyone was afraid of Michael Stevenson.
Never heard of him. Never heard of a Gus Hoffman?
After they found out who they were, they told me, expect the worst. I got very angry. My husband got angry. We said, no, this can't happen. I just wanted to go after them after that. I mean, that's all I thought about, was going after them.
In order to turn up leads for the police, Rose and a friend named Carol Jensen went undercover to infiltrate motorcycle gang hangouts.
I tried to dress like a biker person, a woman that's been around in the biker world. I wore my hair all wild and tight pants and tight jeans and heels and bracelets and I tried to look tough. It was scary, but I don't think I was as afraid as I should have been.
What about you? You seen this guy?
We just let it be known that I had a loaded gun. It was not loaded, but we let him think it was, and that I would use it any moment to protect Rose.
Hey guys, what's happening?
Rose Hoffman spent hundreds of hours going to biker bars, different low-class establishments, soliciting information from informants, buying information when necessary, knocking on doors, talking to anybody that whose name they were given.
So she doesn't like to speak.
Rose hired a private investigator with connections to motorcycle gangs. He set up a meeting with a woman who claimed that she knew what happened to Gus.
I understand you have information about my son.
Yes, I do.
She told me that my son was dead. And she told me that my son was tortured. He was tortured for 3 to 5 days. And I begged her. I said, please, tell me who did it. And I begged him too. And he said, I can't. He said, I don't want to be responsible for her death.
Although Rose now felt that she knew the horrible truth of what had happened to her son, she had no hard evidence that could lead to an arrest.
I think they enticed him. I think they said, come on, let me see your bike, let me see your bike. And then he was like intimidated and said, well, you know, because they're real rough, tough looking guys, real tough guys. And I think he was more intimidated into everything. And I think that once that he got off his bike, that was it. I think they wheeled the bike into the garage and then walked him into the garage. And when that garage door went down, he was never seen again.
9 years after Gus vanished, Michael Stevenson was killed in a failed extortion attempt.
Let me show you a picture, see if you've ever seen this man before.
With Stevenson dead, police re-interviewed members of biker gangs and possible witnesses. These sources confirmed the story that Rose heard from the anonymous witnesses, and this time, they named names.
Crazy guy. It appears that Gus Hoffman was forced through intimidation to go to Mike Stevenson's residence in San Jose, was forced through intimidation to enter the garage. There were certain acts of violence against Gus Hoffman inside that garage, which ultimately resulted in his death and the disappearance of his motorcycle.
Police arrested Michael Hodges, one of the men witnesses had linked to Gus's murder. Richard Dollar, a friend of Hodges, was located at San Quentin, where he was already serving time for a parole violation. The third remaining suspect, John Stell, was finally captured in Northern California. All 3 men were convicted of first-degree murder and given life sentences. Stell and Hodges died behind bars. No trace of Gus Hoffman has ever been found. Rose Hoffman wants to give her son the dignity in death that he was denied at the end of his life.
If anybody knows where my son is, please, I beg you, please tell the police or call me. I want my son. That's the most important thing.
If you have any information, please log on to our website at unsolved.com. Next, $30 million in gold and silver is buried somewhere in Virginia. You just have to find it. Bedford County, Virginia. In 1821, a man named Thomas J. Beale wrote about a vast fortune that he had buried somewhere in these rolling hills. The stash of gold and silver would be worth some $30 million today. For over 100 years, treasure hunters have been searching the countryside looking for Beale's buried fortune. No one has found it.
The amount of gold and silver that was supposed to have been deposited in the two deposits gave me an idea that you'd have to have 2 wagons or more to bury it.
Well, somebody will get lucky. Somebody will get lucky and find it by mistake, or they'll find it because they've really searched it out and know what they're doing. One way or the other, I think it'll be found.
The legend of Beale's treasure begins in the early 1800s in New Mexico. Thomas Beale and a team of 30 miners dug up more than 1.5 tons of gold and another 2.5 tons of silver. They brought the treasure to Virginia, where Beale buried it. He left written instructions to the location of his fortune in the form of 3 secret codes or ciphers. Then he returned to New Mexico and was never seen again. In 1869, a wealthy Virginian solved one of the 3 ciphers using the Declaration of Independence as the key. He numbered the first letter of every word in the Declaration, and then for each number in the cipher, he substituted the corresponding letter. Once it was decoded, the message read,
I have deposited in the county of Bedford in an excavation or vault 6 feet below the surface of the ground 5,100 pounds of silver and 2,921 pounds of gold, securely packed in iron pots with iron covers. No difficulty will be had in finding it.
For more than 130 years, the other 2 ciphers have remained unsolved. One is said to list Thomas Beale's next of kin, and the other is said to pinpoint the exact location of the treasure. Whoever decodes it may find Beale's secret fortune. 2 brothers, Eddie and Joe Toney, and their father-in-law, Earl Boggs, say they've broken the cipher. They claim the message tells of 5 geographic locations where Beale left clues. During our filming, the treasure hunters found this 19th century carriage rod. They believe it is the 5th clue to their search and that Beale buried it, pointing it in the direction of his secret vault.
When the metal detector went off, I got excited, and it's hard to explain how exciting you do get. And you imagine a gold down in there behind them rocks, and my heart felt like it come up in my throat.
Miles away in a different section of Bedford County, Californian Wilbur Swift is also searching. He too believes that he has broken the cipher. Wilbur has spent $20,000 trying to find the Beale treasure.
I'm a computer programmer to start with, so on my own personal computer, I decided to try to decipher this. In about 8 months' time, I was able to break the code. And it told me about a specific type of rock that I was looking for, and I happened to locate that specific type of rock, and there it is right there. It has a face on it, and it has a head on it. This is what the deciphered code told me to look for. And then I said, okay, the treasure has to be underneath it because it said that's where it was supposed to be.
Wilbur hired a local contractor to help him excavate under the rock.
I have lived in Bedford County all of my life, and over the past 25 years, I have dug for this treasure up here for about 20, 25 people. Most of them knew exactly where it was, and when talking to them, it'd be so uptight, they just couldn't hardly breathe, really. And when you start digging for them, it was always just 2 feet away from it. I don't care how deep in the ground you went, it was 2 feet deeper than what you dug.
The target was pre-measured at 26 feet, and we're down right now at about 24 feet, so we don't have too much farther to go. Now that we've found the rock, and we've done some extensive testing, by the way, and we're sure that we're getting the treasure out of there.
Some Bedford County residents are not convinced that there really is a treasure.
It may be here, or may be sitting on it. I've got some land in Thaxton nowhere. It may be on my spread. I don't know. I hope it is.
I think it's an outside possibility. It might be a treasure somewhere yet, but I don't think they're not believe enough in it to go up and start digging.
They think they can break that code. Maybe they can. I hope them good luck. But personally, I just don't believe it's here.
How are we doing, Carl? Oh, we're doing very well. I'm down to the 19th line, and I'm adding.
Could the Beale ciphers be a hoax? Dr. Carl Hammer has spent 30 years studying Beale's numbers to find out if they contain a coded message. As part of his investigation, he attempted to recreate conditions under which Beale wrote the ciphers in his computer lab.
My aim was to find out whether the ciphers are real or whether they're a hoax. Hoax means these are random numbers, they're doodles. And so I started to analyze those numbers. And I discovered that there were some very distinguishable patterns, and they were, in fact, not random numbers, they were not doodles, but they contained information. We don't know what the information is, but they are a legitimate set of cryptographic numbers. And that is all that is known to this date.
And that's enough for Wilbur Swift.
My wife is back in California, and some of the neighbors say, "Hey, where's Wilbur?" And I don't think any of them take it serious. Well, he who laughs last, laughs best. And I believe that one of these days I might get the last laugh.
The Tony brothers believe they will have the last laugh.
The facts that we've got, I know it's not a hoax. You know, I'm convinced that it's not. It's been there 160 some years, supposedly, and it's going to be there until it's found.
Despite all the computer programs, historical research, digging, and searching, Thomas Beale's secret vault, if it exists, remains intact. Next, a man searches for the sister that he hasn't seen in over 50 years. In the late 1920s, the United States began a downward economic spiral that lasted just over a decade. Officially, the Great Depression ended in 1942. But for many, the cost and personal tragedy continued for a lifetime. This was the case for a young girl and her older brother who lived in Haskell, Texas. In 1941, Barney Dewey was just 12 years old, working part-time at a gas station and looking after his little sister, Angeline. Their stepfather had been hospitalized and their mother was gone long hours at her job as a garment worker.
Times were rough, and we were concerned with living and trying to keep body and soul together, and my mother was trying real hard. She was not a well-educated person, but she could read and write and what have you, but that was the only job that was available.
You want to play a game with me? Okay.
Barney and his family managed to get by and stay together until the day when a man who called himself Reverend Nicholas showed up.
I'll get up, sir.
Hello. You're Barney Dewey, aren't you? Well, I'm Reverend Nichols.
Oh, nice.
Most people call me Daddy Nichols.
Oh, Daddy Nichols.
Yeah, I'm a good friend of your mother's.
So he told us that my mother wanted us to go with them.
She said it would be all right if I came over.
The way he put it and the way he expressed himself, well, there's nothing wrong.
How'd you like a piece of candy? Go ahead, you too.
You know, just go with him. And my mother, I thought, well, you know, that perhaps my mother was sick.
Go ahead, come along.
Reverend Nicholas took Barney and Angeline to a nice hotel, bought both of them new outfits, and fed them a fancy meal. The next day, All dressed up in their new clothes, the children were professionally photographed.
There you go. Now, go on over here and we'll find the bus waiting for us.
They said that something had happened to my mother and that we weren't able to see her. And so they took us to the bus station. And I questioned him, asked him, well, where are we going? He said, well, we're going to take a little trip. And don't worry, everything's going to be all right. Well, my sister balked, and she began to cry. Every time we would raise some objection, well, he would smooth our feelings down and say, well, everything's going to be all right, you know. Just we'll go see your mother. And it worked out for Reverend Nichols just real well. We kind of trusted him. And when we got to the foster home, we just felt like that was a place that we was to stay until we met my mother.
A few days later, Reverend Nicholas and his adopted son, Nick Crane, came to the orphanage to pick up Barney, but not Angeline.
Time for lunch, and we're going to our house, and we'll get...
We can't take him now!
Oh, we're just taking him for some food.
And of course, Angeline began to cry and sob and held on to me and followed me out, and she had to be restrained.
Barney!
Later, Barney learned that the fancy new clothes and the photograph were just an advertisement to be shown to prospective foster parents. Barney was sent to live on a ranch outside Abilene, Texas. His foster parents were Reverend Nicholas's secretary and her husband, who conveniently needed a ranch hand.
I had the responsibility of driving the tractor and plowing and doing the chores on the ranch to keep the animals up and everything, keep them fed. And I was pretty satisfied right at first there, you know, because I had my own horse and I could do whatever I wanted to do, you know. And on the ranch, I was kind of in charge. Really felt good about it.
Barney's memories of his foster parents are good ones, even though he lived alone 8 miles from the main ranch house and rarely saw them.
I began to get lonely and began to miss my mother and my sister. Well, I just got so upset that I decided I was going to go to Haskell and look for my mother.
It was 97 miles from the ranch to the town of Haskell. When Barney got there, he discovered that his mother and stepfather had moved away. So Barney set out on a journey that would crisscross Texas and cover nearly 1,000 miles. Barney found his birth father in Cleburne. Together, they traveled to Kilgore, Texas, and then on to Humble, just outside of Houston. There, Barney's father put him on a bus to Odessa, where he was reunited with his mother and stepfather.
When I got off of the bus in Odessa, Texas, and I looked over and I saw my mother, and I recognized her, of course, but she didn't know me.
It's me.
Barney!
I'd changed in the year that had passed and had glasses on, and of course my dad had bought me some new clothes.
You are so brave to go all this way.
We had a wonderful time there, and then she says, "Where's Angie?"
Have you heard from Angeline?
No.
No.
But she's doing okay, though.
Oh, Barney.
We began to talk about the events that had taken place, and I asked her, I says, "Mama," I said, "did you sign any kind of papers or anything to release us to these people?" And she says, "No." Honey says, "I'd never do that."
Barney lived happily with his mother and stepfather until he was 18 years old. In 1947, he married. But he never stopped thinking about his sister, Angeline.
For the last 50 years, I have been searching for my sister, and I haven't been able to contact her, and I have nobody that knows anything about her, and it has been this long, 50 years, half a century, in my search for my sister, Angeline.
Update. On the night of our broadcast, Neil Smith of Cedar Hills, Texas, recognized Angeline as his adopted sister, Martha Jean. Barney discovered that Martha Jean was mentally challenged and living in a group home for the disabled in Arizona. He immediately made plans for a reunion. The moment Barney had waited for more than 51 years finally arrived.
Barney, she's there. Open the door.
Hello, Angie. Can you get out of there all right, Doc?
No.
Well, it's good to see you. Oh, goodness. After all this time.
Yeah.
Goodness, look at me.
I know. Look at me. Oh, no.
Goodness.
It was a real thrill. You know, I mean, it's hard to describe, but you know, and there she was, and my search is ended. I found who I was looking for all of these years. My little sister.
It's joy that I found Barney and all his family here. I'm happy that I found that I've got two families now. Instead of one, I got two. And I'm really happy.
What I did, I sent a letter to Mr. Nichols.
Next, do the spirits of great artists still create masterpieces through the hands of this man? For those who love art, it's tempting to wish that the great masters could return to paint just one more canvas. That's impossible, right? Well, not if you believe in the extraordinary claims of a man named Luis Gasparetto. As he scrawls colors across the page, Gasparetto seems like a man possessed. If his astounding claims are true, every movement he makes is directed by the spirits of long-dead masters who continue to create new work from beyond the grave. Luis Gasparetto grew up in Sao Paulo, Brazil's largest city. The culture here embraces the supernatural, and many consider psychic experiences part of everyday life. The Gasparetto family is no exception. Luis's mother, Zibia, has written 13 books in which she says we're all channeled from the spirit world. Luis was just a boy when he first began to believe that he also possessed psychic abilities. At the age of 13, Luis was suffering from stress and insomnia and was having trouble at school. Zibia thought that he needed counseling and took him to see Madame Lais, one of the city's best-known clairvoyants.
Você vem comigo? Vai dar tudo certo pra gente descobrir o que é isso.
I was embarrassed because it was the first time there, and but I started to feel all that my body's shaking inside and all that energy. And something was holding my throat, and I tried to control myself, and that gets worse. So I had to let it go.
Luis recalls feeling pain and tingling in his arms. To Madame Lais, it was a sign that he would be able to channel writing, just like his mother. But instead, Luis began to draw. Luis Gasparetto says that over the past 4 decades, he's channeled more than 20,000 paintings by 50 different artists. We asked if we can film one of the channeling sessions.
When you invite me for a presentation, I ask them if they want to come, because I cannot do it myself. So if they say yes, I just, accept the invitation.
Our invitation was apparently accepted, and we filmed Gasparetto in New York City. Gasparetto works with such intensity, an assistant holds down the work.
The sensation of coming in, involving me, involving my arms, and I just let it go, and the arm goes by that force, not me. It's not coming from the inside, it comes from outside.
During the session, Gasparetto completed 6 drawings and 3 paintings, most in less than 5 minutes. He moved easily between different artistic styles.
I try not to control anything. I try not to put my thoughts or my ideas. But you see, people think that if you are unconscious, it's going to be somebody else coming through you or taking your body. That's impossible. Nobody takes your body, you know. It's just an energetical influence through you. So I just learned to be passive.
During the 45 minutes we were filming, Gasparetto says he channeled works by 7 artists among the greatest of all time. Is it proof that the great masters are still hard at work in the afterlife? This is a painting by Pierre-Auguste Renoir, completed in 1877. This is Renoir as channeled through Gasparetto in roughly 5 minutes. Claude Monet, 1880. Claude Monet through Gasparetto. Vincent van Gogh, 1890. Van Gogh through Gasparetto. Art experts in the United States are not convinced.
The notion that any one of these artists, take a Van Gogh, for example, a man of extraordinary intensity and seriousness of purpose, to think that he would want to come back after his death and produce third, fourth, fifth-rate imitations of what he successfully did during his life seems to me incredible.
Gasparetto certainly seems to be possessed by some force. I mean, perhaps it's the force of his own subconscious playing back images that he's seen in art history books, or perhaps he's really receiving these images from the afterlife. I mean, I certainly can't say.
The painters are coming through me because they want to show that there is life after death, and they want us to think about eternity. They want to help the evolution of our conceptions of life. They want us to see life in a different way.
Is Luis Gasparetto a window to the metaphysical side of art? Can there possibly be any substance to his stunning claims? No matter what you may believe, even a skeptic has to admit that Luis Gasparetto sure puts on a good show.